We got to go through the dysfunction that is the Knicks again. And we got to talk about Carmel. We got to talk about Derrick Rose. And we got to talk about Porzingis. And we got to talk about Oakley and the idiotic drama that is the NBA. I mean, it's sickening.
Well, let's do it in
ridiculous.
in the appropriate order of the NBA stuff.
Why don't you and Al talk about the NBA? I'll just sit here and listen.
No, because I think you have a take on it.
See if I can learn. So I've had a take on this for 3 years. And finally, people are starting to listen after 3 years.
Well, your mellow take, but not Phil Jackson.
The whole thing sucks.
Is a joke. And I'll give you one great example.
How about what Dan Gilbert did?
You want me to start with that? I mean, I have it at 1 and 1A. I'll start with Dan Gilbert and Charles Oakley. If I'm James Dolan, I re-establish my ban of Charles Oakley at Madison Square Garden.
Let him move to Cleveland and go play for the, go be a
I would not let him in. I will not discuss it anymore. It's my building. He's not allowed to come in, number one. You want to embarrass me? You want to go out there and sit next to another owner, front row? You want to watch my team play basketball and be celebrated by Dan Gilbert? If I'm James Dolan, I'm done with it. I made an attempt. I went to the commissioner's office. I sat down in there. I was willing to have a Charles Oakley night and everything else. And ever since then, you've done nothing but bash me, attack me, and try to embarrass me. Charles Oakley should be banned from Madison Square Garden, number one. Number two, Dan Gilbert embarrassed himself last night. Dan Gilbert, who I don't know from Adam, but has done a good job in Cleveland. Yeah, you got LeBron James.
You got LeBron James, and LeBron James started winning.
And LeBron James hated his guts 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And it was mutual. And that's fine. I got no dog in that race. But Dan Gilbert parading Charles Oakley out there for the Knicks-Cavs game last night.
Unbelievable.
Is a joke.
It is.
And I don't know what Dan Gilbert gets out of it other than, putting a shiv in Dolan's back or the Knicks' back or the Garden or whatever the case may be. But if I'm Jim Dolan, Dan Gilbert's dead to me too. And I have no time for Dan Gilbert. Not because there has to be a love affair between owners or camaraderie amongst owners, but Dan Gilbert's a really, really bright guy. And I know that Oakley's been to Cavs games this year, and he's tight with LeBron, what have you. In the scope of what took place here over the last month, to put Charles Oakley in the front row next to you and essentially parade him out there as, look, I got a great relationship with Charles Oakley. He can sit front row in my building is an absolute joke.
But I would say that
it really is. And Charles Oakley doesn't. Let me say this, and you can call me what you want to call me, say what you want to say. Ever since they met in Adam Silver's office, and we all thought there was this accord, and we were going to be fine and move on, right?
Right.
And there was going to be a Charles Oakley night, and we're going to move past the crap that happened in Madison Square Garden. Ever since then, Oakley's been on the warpath and has not stopped with his criticism of the Garden, the Knicks, and Jim Dolan. Dolan has said nothing.
Isn't it amazing that Charles Oakley blames the Knicks for being overly sensitive,
right?
Because he was so negative towards them over the last few years. That he is claiming that that they're just oversensitive. Right. I have an opinion. I'm allowed to give my opinion.
They follow me around. They don't like me because I say bad things about them.
Exactly. So the moment that the Knicks say anything negative about Charles Oakley, it becomes a whole racial thing.
That's right.
I mean, and he becomes a completely out of control. Does not want to have anything to do with what the commissioner is saying. I don't know. Maybe he is now has this newfound celebrity.
He feels empowered, Boom. That's what it is.
Well, whatever it is.
You know why? Because you have politicians backing you up. The fan base is backing you up. Yeah. You became relevant all of a sudden. I would tell you right now, and I love the Knicks more than any other team I've ever liked. Charles Oakley doesn't belong in Madison Square Garden. He doesn't deserve to be in Madison Square Garden. I don't care what he did for 10 years as a Knick. He doesn't. And he can bash the Knicks all he wants. He can bash the owner all he wants.
The olive branch was there last week.
It was done. They had it done. Adam Silver, Michael Jordan, whatever it was, they got it done. And ever since then, he's just going to dig, 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 dig. Right. And doing what he did last night is a joke. He really is. You lose all respect for Charles Oakley doing what he did last night.
So the drama in the NBA continues.
Yeah.